Okay, wow. So this is one of those videos that I'm not sure if it's going to make it to the upload, either because of time or because of the things that I'm going to talk about. And a lot of the videos I make, which aren't many, are inspired by the Aman John X channel. I don't really watch Aman John K. I watched a couple videos, but I'm more interested in Aman John X because that's where Aman expresses his deep, feelings and regard towards humanity and that sort of thing. And I gain a lot of insight through those. And I'm very interested in people. I love psychology. And so I love also solving the riddles of people, solving the puzzles of people, and interpreting and understanding where they're living from and how they came to contrive their moral principles and those sort of things. And you do that through understanding the stories, the history behind people, and also the way they express themselves, and through their creativity. Just all these things help relate to the stories and the sort of processes going on. And I also have certain questions that kind of maybe disturb me in some sense about people, but specifically about Aman. And they pertain to the riddles, so I start asking these questions and he doesn't answer them. And so I have to try to look for the answers in the ideas that he expresses through his videos. So let's see where to start with this. Principles. One of the things that really inspires me about the things he talks about and other people that I've joined up with, in a sense, as far as like the YouTube channel, to understand how to live by principles and virtues and those sort of things, and relate to where our instincts are much more powerful and sort of are the reason we get ourselves into trouble by not, holding certain things conscious and integrating those. And one of the things that was sort of not congruent in my eyes, and let me just say that these are likely to be biased, most likely, almost certainly to be biased, and also by expressing them are going to show some things about me, perhaps some insecurities, perhaps some neglect of perception and those sort of things. But I had voiced previously in previous videos and to him personally about being really interested in metaphysics. One of the things behind metaphysics is, of course, asking questions about reality, but understanding that reality is much more than the words that we attribute to it. And it's derived from a sort of intention that we have. And to me, a part of metaphysics is I can say something in a certain way that has a certain connotation and the way I elevate and use my voice and use my energy generates perception in others. It generates, in my reality. It's not just about saying things out loud in air. If you learn about the history of like the Hebrew language and the older languages that we have, a lot of people who developed language, they were trying to associate language as close to the way reality works as possible. That's why they have these 4 symbols that signify God, and they called it like the language of fire because of this idea of vibration being more than, everything is vibrating. And so when we project words, we project our thoughts, we project our intentions, it has a direct impact on our reality. And this stuff is very fascinating because this precedes knowledge in terms of the way we secularize it psychology, physics, all these different words. But before that, before the word is like the intention. Before the word is like the instinct. Our instincts are first, and then our ability to be consciously aware comes second. I was reading a book by Jonathan Haidt called The Righteous Mind, and he relates to us being 90% ape and 10% bee in the sense of instinct, and then group, collaborative, and just all these things. I think it's a really great book, and it's part of the background of this sort of thinking here. And so I get interested in metaphysics because I get interested in the intention behind the words and the intention behind the actions. And another great book that identifies this is called, what's it called? Crap, I can't believe that I'm forgetting the title of the book. The Science of Sanity. And it has to do with non-Aristotelian logic. So, Aristotle was a genius apparently, and I don't know much about him, but just based on the things that Alman talks about Aristotle's wisdom and contributions. But we always have to be counterintuitive at the same time. We always have to go against our beliefs and question the things that we hold absolutely true, in order to immerse ourselves in discovery, to see if there's anything out there. And so just to go into it, metaphysics apparently is not necessary to Alman. He just pretty much dismisses it, says I really don't have any need for it, and he claims it's questioning what this is, what that. He put a judgment on it without, and even after admitting not really investigating into it. And so metaphysics a lot of times gets the bad rep, just like anarchy does, of being something that it's not. And unless you investigate it, unless you take the time to look at it, you can't really know. And so I have tried to, in different ways, find a way to say, man, how can I get him interested in that? How can I get him interested? I and all of his other fans and stuff are willing to insert themselves as much as possible into his reality, into his level of thinking based on what he projects, but he is not necessarily willing to do that unless things fit his specific criteria. And at the same time, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with this, but at the same time, it refuses to acknowledge this fact that we have learned, that we're more instinct than we are rationality. We're more instinct than we are reason. So, you're choosing only to investigate certain things, but it doesn't account for what your consciousness, your conscious awareness hasn't deciphered, hasn't interpreted. And it's sort of, to me, like, if you're going to have a principle where you're going to say that you have this ability, or that you do insert yourselves into everybody else's sort of mind frame, but they're not willing to insert themselves into yours, but then you openly declare the things that you're not interested in and aren't willing to investigate, that to me is like a counter action, right, against the principle. And another thing was that, to me, because of this idea of vibration and projections and intentions, when you say you're going to do something, it really has true value. Your word is bond, to put it cliche-like. And I'm not about to admit at all that that's something that I'm like good at, or I've failed to uphold my word countless times. And it's something that I've had to integrate, and this brings me to the sort of interest I have in virtue and morality and that sort of thing, is because, I don't necessarily know if I'm naturally driven, but I'm driven towards trying to do what's right, trying to do what's virtuous, trying to be correct, trying to be efficient, trying to be economical and intelligent. I'm just interested in those things, and as far as health is concerned, posture, just all of these different areas, intellectually. And so that's just one of those principles. It's applied metaphysically, your word is bond, but also philosophically, also just morally, and all these virtuously. So when you say you're going to do something and then you don't do it, it goes against the principle. And I think that's okay, because I just think it's, as far as I can tell, it's impossible to absolutely 100%, 110% apply yourself to the virtues, to the principles. And the reason for that is your body, your ability to interact with your reality depends on the resources available to you. Not only on the food you intake, but like a sun, like everything that exists, we're burning energy. And nutritionists have related this to like your glucose intake and all these substances in your body, that when they're at their peak, that's when you have the highest ability of focus, the highest ability of concentration and memory retrieval, and all these things that deal with our psychology and our physiology. And once those resources are depleted, it's harder to uphold those things, and you start to regress more towards the instinct. So, and it's not, you don't necessarily all the time have a choice of this, because like I said, your conscious ability to control those resources and use your breath to regulate your fusion, how fast or slow you're burning up your energy. And this is what breath is. This is like, historically speaking, if you research on the ancients and the way we viewed breath and these things, once again, the fire language and all these things in the past, there was such intelligence there, and we knew so much. We were very wise. And your ability to control your breath has everything to do with how you're able to manifest your energy, your physical energy and your mental energy. Think about when you become anxious, when you are confronted. It has to do with how you're breathing too. And if you're breathing shallow, it's harder to get oxygen in the blood, and just all of these things. And so I just think that these things have such importance and contribute to the realms of philosophy, because this is the language. We're talking about morality, we're talking about virtue, we're talking about living. And so then I start to question, well, what's the motive then? If Aman doesn't see me, or maybe other people, as like, you don't see the need to interact with certain things, you don't even see the need, and it may be because you don't have the time, but I would go further and say, not that you don't have the time, but you don't make the time. You can read something, look at something, observe something, watch a video or whatever, and just think to yourself, that's just not worth my time, it's not worth addressing. Because of what, though? And that would probably be the question that I would have, because I try to also understand, well, what's the patterns, and this might be, like, why are you getting so obsessed with what Aman's doing? Like, why are you trying to pay so much attention to what he's doing? And it's just the fact of being fascinated with people, yes, but being fascinated with him, and just really trying to regard him as a friend. I just think I try to be positive about people, and not, it's not like I'm trying to police his life or anything like that. It's just, this is just part of the investigation of relationship. Anything that we choose to pay attention to in life, whether it's a person or a thing, if we invest enough time into it and effort into it, we just ask these questions and we explore it in every way that we can. And it's just like a baby that just has to touch things and put them everywhere and immerse themselves into it. And this is, to me, this is just applying that sort of thing. And I'm just using even a rationale to something that's just, I'm just driven towards. I'm just naturally interested in. And So then when I look at the pattern, like, how much time do I have? God, I'm already 15 minutes, so this video won't even get uploaded. That's a shame. That's a shame. I'm going to stop it here and see if I can, and then restart it, because it's almost worth it. It's worth putting up.